On this episode, we have Chris Fielding, KG7 IVS, here in the studio to talk about supporting public service events. This is the Field Radio Podcast. I am your host, John Jacobs, W7DBO. Thank you for clicking and tuning in and joining us here on this podcast. Some changes to the Field Radio Podcast is we're going to move to a video format for this podcast. So if you are watching this on YouTube, obviously you're seeing me here in the studio on video. If you're listening to this in your favorite podcast player, say iTunes or something on the Android platform or on the website, you were just hearing the audio only. So as we go out and produce more podcasts in the future, they will all be video related. And so I encourage you to go to the YouTube channel and watch if you want to be able to see some visuals associated with the podcast. But if you prefer the medium of just audio only, say on your commute, they will always be available through the iTunes player and your favorite podcast player or on the website at fieldradiopodcast.org. Also, with this change, we're going to be producing just as much video as we do podcasts. So after the summer break, if you might have noticed, I'm up to 32 different videos released about Dayton Hamvention 2018 in Xenia, Ohio. And I have about, say, 3 or 4 more productions on mobile field communications, the MCOM static display, and then the fox hunt that's coming out. So I got a couple more videos, and my goal is to get all the Dayton videos from 2018 released before Dayton 2019 comes. So I encourage you to go over to youtube.com/Field Radio Podcast if you want to see product reviews and demonstrations and those MCOM static displays. It's highly interesting to see what different people have done with either communications vans, communications trailers, or vehicles. And so I encourage you to go check out those videos, and there'll be more to come released. So the goal is to be able to release something weekly, whether it's a video, a podcast episode with some guests, or some type of blog, write an article or something like that. So there's going to be a weekly content release just in different forms. So the best way to be able to keep track of all these things is to go to my website and sign up for the email newsletter. I'll only use this email address to let you know when new releases happen with the Field Radio Podcast. You can always go to YouTube and subscribe to my channel there. And then also, if you're just wanting to catch just the audio type podcasts, you can just obviously subscribe in your iTunes player or your favorite Android device. I'd like to welcome back to the show Chris Fielding, KG7 IVS. He's been on the show a couple times, and we've done some local events around here with public service events. And so I thought it would be a good idea. We're going to do a multi-part series, but this one I want to focus on some lessons we learned from operating events.
Yeah, we've done both urban and wilderness events and learned actually many things. Hopefully we can all learn from our mistakes and not make them again.
Yes, and then so I put together a training item. I'll link to it in the show notes, but it was a while back, and it was the 20 lessons learned from 10 events, and these were some my mistakes and some others' mistakes, and like you said, it's how we learn and it's how we grow as operators. So the first one is, and I actually just had this happen to me on the last event. Never leave your HT battery engaged in your go bag. Gremlins will climb in and turn on your radio. So in other words, your battery is attached to your radio. And I'm of the theory that gremlins will climb in and turn on your radio and kill your battery.
It's those, especially the different types of radios that you may have. I've never experienced this, but I can see how that will happen. Because those, unless it's in some type of case, some metal object or something will start pushing that, and you will drain that battery or transmit, and that could be as bad or worse.
Yeah, especially I stow my radios with the antenna off, and so that obviously would cause a problem. But yeah, those push knobs, amazing how it just takes just the slightest bump in a bag, and it clicks and it's on. So this last event, we had to break out some spare radios, and the first one I pulled out was dead battery. And it was good the week before when I checked the bag and charged everything. So luckily I had some spares to get around that. So that's just always a good thing is if you have anything electronic, I always leave everything disconnected and turned off and unplugged, even my Go boxes, just because you don't know what kind of battery drain you're getting just being plugged into devices. It's
a good idea. I've experienced it more with the family GMRS radios, where all of a sudden you pick up the bag and you hear them all turn on at the same time because they've been pressed. So
you start hearing the static in the garage and wonder what's going on. Okay, so number 2, we've all experienced this one way or another. Guy your antenna mast first, then mount the antenna, not the reverse. And this goes for easy ups too.
Yes, we actually almost like every experience we've had, especially those out in the middle of nowhere, it gets windy, and we've had micro storms come in and blow the easy up totally off. I've been hit in the head by an antenna that was not properly mounted or guyed to the ground, and it fell over and bunked me on the head. So easy, just buy those tent pegs, get those down. Time if you're using 2 easy ups together, tie those together, just weigh them down because they come like sails in the wind.
Yeah, you don't want to wait for the wind to realize it
will happen. Just count on it happen. Some wind will come up and just take them away. So just guy them down and you'll be safe.
Yeah, and especially with these public service events, we got a lot of runners, we got a lot of event support, we got families, we got kids, we got everybody running around everything. And if we don't take extra precautions, keep those antennas vertical, like you said, you got hit in the head, but you don't want that to happen to some member of the public because you failed to just tie down your lines. So tie down your lines, especially like the buddy poles, because some configurations like that with those extendable whips, if it does come crashing down, you might just snap your antenna into a couple pieces. So yeah, guy your antenna first, then raise it.
In addition to that, on your guy lines, mark them with either reflective tape or just a flag, because those are easy to trip over too. So just be safe.
Yeah, people come in and even though it's might be an orange rope, they're still not going to see it. But if you tie that orange marking tape, it's surveyor tape. You tie that around a couple different places. And it also helps, like in the campground, when we have cars pulling in and out, they're not going to be recognizing what guidelines you have out there. So, okay, number 3, if using a computer, turn it on before it gets cold and don't let it go to sleep. All equipment gets brittle in the cold. Now, this experience I had where I was doing an overnight event up in the mountains in October, and I waited until it was cold to break out laptop number 2, and it was pretty cold, and the battery was not functioning, and it just didn't want to turn on. So it just seems like everything gets more fragile in the cold.
That's a good idea. Just eliminate the sleeping, the hibernation parts on those laptops, regardless, warm or cold, I think, so you don't run in those, again, draining the battery. But yeah, electronics do not like the cold at all. So keep them, well insulated. Yeah, and your radios and your laptops, when you are in cold events, if they are on, like you said, they don't go to sleep. Just the internal heat from your processor is going to keep that going pretty good. So number 4, and I don't know how many times this has happened to me. Spare hardware is only 97 cents a bag at Home Depot, but priceless in the wilderness when you drop a nut or a bolt in the grass. Yeah, you'll never find that bolt or that nut that you use to for whatever reason. So it's cheap insurance. Buy 2 or 3, throw those in your go bag, or a separate equipment bag, and you'll never come up short on those important times. Yeah, that's a good level of redundancy, and especially if you have nuts, see if you can get a wing nut. It just saves you from having to use a tool, say to tighten down a mast or something like that. We did was at Hamcation 3 years ago with my dad, Larry WA7ZBO, and we just got some DMR radios or some. No, we didn't get DMR radios. We got some 220 radios, and was trying to put the belt clip on the back at our car with that Florida grass. And sure enough,
That little screw fell right down, and I saw exactly where it went.
It was like it just disappeared to the end of the earth.
It just disappeared.
Yep.
However, we did have, luckily the screw was of the right type. We had a mag mount on the roof, and my father grabbed the mag mount and took it and started using it as a sweeper.
Oh, smart.
And sucked it right up. So you can do that with some of your bolts and equipment, but others not. So that's an idea. If you have a mag mount around, start dabbing it. We just started dabbing it in the grass to see if we could pull it up. Okay, so number 5, if your radio is not programmed to event frequencies, you are not prepared.
Do this days in advance. If they're a good a race director will tell you, get it input, test them out. Do not do it the day of, because you'll not be able to, even if you're really familiar with your radio, just have it checked out beforehand. Have, another spare radio set up. Have them written down, the frequencies and all that written out. But don't wait for the day of, because something will go wrong. You won't be able to be, on time for some reason, be on the air, and you don't want to sit there trying to go through those menus, setting those frequencies up. So
you should know how to field radio. You should be able to field program your radio anyways. However,
under stress like that,
save yourself the time.
Yeah.
And also, our radios store, 200 frequencies,
Easy.
120 at the minimum. Take the time to go into what they have sent to you, the frequency list, and program in every frequency. Because I've been on events where I've heard other operators say, go to the backup frequency, go to the 70 centimeter backup repeater. I don't have that programmed in my radio because I thought I was only working this frequency. Or you get your assignment changed in the middle of an event, and you're like, well, I didn't program in that area because I was expecting to be at AID 1, and I'm now going to AID 7, and I didn't program that. So just take the time to program all the frequencies and test. That's a big one where you'll see offset wasn't in right, or the tone wasn't right. If you can get out in your area, just test your frequencies. Let's see. The next one is number 6. There is no such thing as enough radios. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, yeah.
That is true. There is no such thing as enough adapters and connectors. I don't know how many times we've gone to the bag and just grateful that for some reason a connection that we never thought we had to make, we were having to make for a reason or another.
Yeah, if you go through a swap meet and you look at a connector someone has that you'll never use, that pick it up. If it's cheap, put it in that bag of various connectors. You'll be amazed. You may not need it, someone else may, but it will always come in handy sometime. And again, it's just better to have more than nothing. Not enough.
And we found this doing our events, our conferences and everything like that. You just get a big box full of stuff, and it's amazing how many times we go back to that box of stuff.
We do. We have this
parts.
odds and ends of every different. We use especially for audio, but it works same in radio. Just get those BNC, 250 or PL 259, all those different angles, everything.
Yeah, because like you said, you never know if you're going to interface with someone else's radio, and all of a sudden they've got a different connector on there. Okay, so number 7, you are not in college anymore. Overnight shifts are not easy. Know your limitations. Pace yourself. It's a marathon, not a sprint. How many times have we seen this in events where the night before, of course, you're loading until 2 a.m., then you get a whole 3 hours sleep, and then you think you can just muscle through it with a Red Bull or a drink or something like that. It just doesn't work.
I mean, there's lots of stuff like this taxing on your body and your mind. There's only so far energy drinks can go. Those you crash after that, and it's just know your limitations. Take a break. I mean, it's nice having 2 people, on a shift, so one can take a little nap. We've done that before, but yeah, if you're doing that overnight thing, just know that you have to pace yourself, because you don't want to miss that one runner that's come through and he sees you sleeping but keeps going.
And that's the runner that goes missing from your station, and then you're stuck there waiting to find out what happened to that runner before you can be released. Yeah, that's the thing is you may muscle yourself through it, but you're not going to be coherent on the radio.
Yeah.
And you might not realize it, that you're like you said, you're missing something. So so just know your limitations. And then also when you volunteer, I would, I did one was an overnight shift for the Bear 100, and we're staffed low. And so very little sleep the night before, a long drive, a long setup. And then I had to go till 6 a.m. before I got any relief. Tell your race director stuff like that, and I was alone the whole night.
Yeah,
I'm like, it doesn't work. You got to send somebody. It doesn't matter if they're even licensed.
And I wouldn't, maybe if you're new to this, don't do an early morning one. Just kind of try things out different times, just to see. I mean, your body and mind, how it would work, but don't overly stress yourself on your initial volunteer opportunities.
Yeah, take some easy while you're still trying to figure things out. Okay, so number 8, speaking of marathons, be prepared at a marathon event to hand out more cups of water than keying your mic. You are an aid station volunteer that happens to have a radio.
Oh yeah, I recall the one we did in Provo,
yes,
Utah. Why we were there, I still question it. We had law enforcement right next to us. All we had to do if there was an issue is lean over and say that person, and there was essentially no reason for us. So we handed out water.
Well, we sat there on the hill and watched them handing out water for a while and was entertained by their technique.
And you've experienced the better way of doing it.
Yeah. You if you see what we're on video now is you move your hand with the runner. You don't hold your hand still because of the impact. So you pace the runner with your hand. If you're doing a marathon and you're in the city, and if you don't have, and we didn't have a runner assignment, the only thing we had was announce first runner and last runner. And even then I guess it was the pace vehicle. Law enforcement was there. Our net control wasn't even in any direct contact with the race director. That's why I said I don't even know why we were there. But we just pitched in and started handing out water. And
kids were there helping out, but also a big group came through. And it gives you in good graces with the race director or those who are at your aid station, that you're really there to help in any way you can. If you're able to do it, number one, your first priority is doing your job, in amateur radio, checking people in or out or whatever the situation is, but help out. We've
put up easy ups, take them down, clean up the camp.
Yeah, we've done transported
runners.
So just be a good service.
Yeah, just don't be I'm a radio operator and I'm
That's all I
to
do
my radio stuff. And so just be a good steward and help out people. Okay. Number 9, if your children go with you on an event, your wife will count the day as a family time. This counts for a lot of things in life.
I'm still learning that one. You're good at it, and we've had good experiences with your kids. Just make sure to keep them entertained, but your wife will appreciate it if you can get some, kids out of the house. And they start learning, your son helped out with the water.
Yes.
Handing that out, and I think it's good, a family opportunity.
Yeah, and it is, especially when we get these really extreme backcountry event stuff, you just got to be mindful of, taking care of their needs when there's, not a bathroom nearby, or
I would do the overnight ones where it's cold.
Yeah, you don't want to do overnight stuff. But definitely get your kids out and make this a family affair. And like I said, it counts towards points, and you feel like you're not being gone on a man trip as much. So number 10, this is a mantra that we now do everywhere. Always bring a comfortable chair.
Your body and your rear will appreciate it, because number one, not having anything, or just having a stump, or make it a chair that you like to sit in. Don't bring
not a hard
metal
chair.
No. That will wear you out. So just get your favorite chair and set it up and enjoy that, because that makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, there's we always bring a table. And this kind of goes to the bigger thing of always bringing just creature comforts. Plenty of food, of snacks, of the food you like to eat. Just bring all that stuff. But with the chair and the table There are camp chairs that are meant to be sitting at a table that are more comfortable than a metal chair. Or you could just get a regular camp chair, just realize if you're needing to get up to the table to work the laptop or something like that. It's going to be a little kind of hard to do in those deep chairs. But yeah, always bring a comfortable chair. Okay, this is one that I experienced, and this is what converted me going over to go boxes and ammo cans versus being in rack-related equipment. Number 11, never leave your equipment in an open truck bed. It will rain. And if it doesn't rain, it's going to be full of dust. So.
Yep, you've experienced that. Opened up your
8-rack case, 3-rack case.
And you had a couple inches of water down.
Yeah, water pooled in the bottom. Like there was very little openings, a couple screw openings. The lid, everything was on. But yeah, if it does, like I said, if it's not going to rain, we're in the West here, and we drive through the dustiest of environments, and your equipment will love you much better if the gear you have. That's why I use ammo cans now. Everything is sealed reasonably, and also I have a truck bed shell to protect stuff like that. So just protect your equipment. Number 12, if you are busy and overwhelmed with your assignment, don't worry. Sheer boredom is right around the corner. Think about Lajota with this one. If you want to tell the story about our first, 5 minutes in the race?
Yes, where we actually saved a life.
Yes, we saved a life. We
were going up the canyon, one of the many, and noticed this older gentleman kind of wobbly at the side of the road.
He was walking his bike.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, he was walking his bike, but people were walking with him. And that's a sign something's wrong when other bikers have stopped.
And so we stopped and offered our assistance, and essentially he was out of it.
Yeah, he was incoherent.
Yeah.
Blurred vision.
And he kept trying to get back on his bike, thinking
cold.
he could do it. So we essentially rescued him, put him in our car, warmed him up, and
called medical.
Yeah,
we did everything. Called medical. They says that they weren't going to send an ambulance for him. They just said we were about 2 miles from the next aid station.
Yeah, so we just took him.
So we just transported him in. So that was the first 5 minutes of Logan to Jackson race, and then we didn't have anything else.
No,
the rest of the time besides some flat tires, but. We thought for sure this was the first time we did that event. We thought for sure we were in for a long, long day. And they say that about stuff like that. The world could be crashing around you, and your aid station, you have sheer boredom. So just know that there's – yeah, go ahead.
I was just saying, it happens, with those races, those endurance runs, those are – you get 2 or 3 coming in maybe at once, but some of those with larger groups, you can get – 20 coming through, and you're just trying to write down their times as fast as you can, but then it will be slow for 30, 40 minutes.
Yes, so like one you had to physically get in the path.
Yes, tell them to
stop them and get their numbers.
Yeah, so the stuff we've learned to that's important because you have to keep track of everybody, and you just have to physically say, stop, I need your time and your bib number, then let them go.
Yeah.
But other times it slows. You bring some reading material, do whatever, but just stay on task.
Yeah, I'll put up a graph here of the last one I did. You'll see the flow of the hours here on the graph of when people came in, and like it's dead, and then it's busy, and then next thing you know, you're back to sheer boredom again. So just take those opportunities of boredom to rest and relax, knowing that something's around the corner. Yes, practice programming your radio. Okay, let's see. Number 13. The thought to stake down your easy up. Oh, see, we already had this in here. The thought to stake down your easy up canopy should come before the big unexpected wind.
Yep, just plan on it happening, and just be safe, not sorry, and guide it down.
Yeah, I now bring extra stakes just for the event aid station people that bring a canopy because they
know they're not.
Or they come with very cheap stakes. And so I was able to, some Harbor Freight nails.
Yep.
Stake down. And you got to remember to stake down not only the base, but also get some ropes up to the top canopy, because if you just stake down the legs, the wind still has the potential to buckle and break your cross sections. So you need to not only anchor low, but you also need to anchor high and hold down those.
The stakes
canopies.
work better than rocks. Yes, that's a good, secondary weight, but if you have room, bring water jugs, propane tanks. I don't know.
Yeah,
But
something you have already at camp, or
but rocks,
if you brought extra water.
they
will go themselves free.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, number 14, never send a 5-watt HT to do a 50-watt mobile's job. I don't know. I've seen this way too many times with people that volunteer for events with just a handheld.
Thinking that it's worked through their net, check in that 5-watt, it doesn't work. Get something, invest in something. If you're going to do that, either borrow it, but invest in something with a little more horsepower, because it will definitely benefit. I mean, you don't have to use all 50, but it's better than 5, where you can't be heard.
Yeah, and I've actually heard some people talking about suggesting to new operators to make the handheld not the first purchase, but to actually have a mobile station, because a lot of times people will get into the hobby with the handheld, and then you can't be heard even on your nets or your simplex nets, and you get frustrated thinking that you just don't, this hobby's too complicated, or I don't know how to do this, and they end up leaving the hobby because they just get frustrated with not being able to make the repeater on the handheld. And so people are kind of making the case that, maybe you should get and now it's cheaper or exact same cost to buy a 2-meter mobile, say like from MTC Radio or DX Engineering. They're like $100-$120. How much are handhelds? ICOM, Kenwood handhelds, the base, they're around $100-$120 unless
you can do a lot more
unless you're in the Chicoms.
Yeah, with the 50-watt versions, there's more. You have more leeway, or just to do a lot more with that. So I'd recommend that too. Start with the 50-watt and buy those smaller ones. You can use around town or whatever, but
when it's needed.
Yep.
Yeah, and like I said, the cost is almost the same. Okay, number 15, never underestimate the value of gloves you can write and operate a radio with. So this is, once again, cold weather operating. Even winter field day, you take your gloves off just for a minute to tighten down a mast or do something because your gloves are too bulky and your fingers are cold, and boy, it takes a while to get your fingers warmed back up again.
Yeah, it's nice. They've actually come up with pretty thin but thin-slit gloves where you can actually take off the finger, kind of fold it back. You've seen those that you can do, but anyway, use the heat warmers. Those help things out a lot. But if you have to wear thick, just know you're going to be taking those off quite a bit, and it's worth even having a smaller pair, thinner pair inside of the thicker ones. Yeah,
and that's a great idea. You have that thin pair. Even they have ones that have metallic touch in them, that's so right. You can still use capacitive touch, your iPhone, stuff like that. So if you do have to take off those thick gloves, at least you have a thinner layer that's not exposing your fingers right to bare cold. And so that's always a good one to think about. Once again, this goes back to creature comforts. There's no reason why we're out.
You don't need to be
operating.
miserable.
Yeah, you don't have to sign to be miserable. Okay, let's see. Number 16. Your sole purpose of volunteering is not to get a T-shirt.
I take umbrage to that. No, yeah, that's a bonus, to get a T-shirt, but don't go asking the race director for that T-shirt. It's a nice perk, and if they have them, they'll give them to you. I have a nice collection. My kids have a nice collection of T-shirts, but your real reason there is to serve, to be a good volunteer and improve your skills.
Yeah, and this is one. The reason why I put this one in here is because I had a really negative experience with this, with the Salt Lake City Marathon. We were told in advance to come pick up our T-shirts to check in at the start finish. Now, this is a race that's staying within the Salt Lake Valley, so it's not unreasonable to come to start finish at 5 o'clock in the morning before your assignment, before the marathon starts. No traffic. It's easy in, easy out. Pick up your T-shirts, check in, go to your assignment. That was the story. Now, there had been some hams that had done this for years, where there was some type of rover or something that would bring the T-shirts around to them. So they ignored the instructions, check in at start finish, then go to your assignment and get your T-shirt. So they announced over net control that if you hadn't already got your T-shirt, you needed to now come back to start finish to pick it up, which now is impossible traffic to get into. And I heard a slew of operators not giving their call signs, not giving their tactical call signs on the radio, complaining, saying that's not how it's been done in the past. I'm done. I'm out of here. This is it. And I just said, really, is this why we're here? To get that T-shirt. We're going to break our FCC rules over being upset over a T-shirt that was so thin that it didn't even fit you after the first time you washed it. So anyways, that's my soapbox on that one. You're not there to get your T-shirt. Number 17, if you show up to an assignment right at the start of the shift, you are late.
Be early, and be earlier than you think you need to be. We've experienced that too. You again, you never know what's laying in wait for you. Those gremlins, those what's the adage? What will go wrong?
Will. Yeah. Murphy's Law.
Murphy's Law. Thank you. But that will happen. It's better just to be early, be ready, and then be late, and everyone's waiting for you, or they're net control is trying to find out where you are. We've experienced that with not us being late, but net control is calling a next station right before us. Where are you? Where are you?
Yeah.
And they have to use their resources to maybe send someone out there to find out if something's wrong with them. So just be early, be responsible, and they'll appreciate it.
Yeah, the reason why we haven't been late is because we do build in extra time. So this last one we did together, we had got some local intelligence. We had to go up one canyon to pick up the stuff and then go down the canyon, get back on the freeway, go back up another canyon. And when you look at it on paper, it's just a short line. In fact, I'm showing it right now on the Google Maps. Point A to point B seems so easy, and that Google Map image looked such like a clean road. And we even had a local ham that had taken that before, told us, oh, yeah, you'll have to go slow, but you'll definitely get there faster than driving all the way back around, which is the map I'm showing you right now. And we hit the most impossible trail, and it wasn't a road, it was a trail.
Oh, yeah.
And we were in a full-size truck that we got a new paint job.
And we almost punctured the tire.
Yeah, we speared our engine with a log.
It was
we jousted with a
if we had back
tree.
problems before we do now. I mean, it was
we were beat up.
We were, and that took more time than we thought.
More time.
Another full hour.
Yeah.
So we were rushing.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were lucky.
And if it was any type of weather, we were in a very dry streak this summer. If we had any type of mud, we would have been off the trail how many times?
Oh.
Anyway, so the way this is the way I always walk back the time. So they say you should be set up and operating, say, by 10 o'clock. Then you say, okay, I'm going to be set up and operating by 9:30. I'm going to arrive at my station an hour in advance to be able to work out any issues and problems and bugs. So then that puts you there at, 8:30?
Mm-hmm.
And then you figure in your drive time. And so for this one, it was an hour drive time. So 8:30, 7:30. And then when you walk back all the time when you should leave your house, then just add an extra half hour, just because you'll want that half hour. And so that's why we got to we left at 6:30, 7.
Can't pick me up 7.
Yeah. And the reason why we weren't late, even after having all those problems, was because we had
the buffer.
We had that buffer of an hour. We actually had a buffer of an hour and a half, and we used all of it. So yeah, just show up early. There's nothing wrong with showing up early. And it helps get established before other cars, vehicles come in, start filling up the choice parking spot of where you wanted to set up your radio. Okay, let's see. Number 18, while huddled around a space heater at 3 a.m. to keep warm and you smell burning plastic, it's your HT or it's you.
You've experienced it?
Yes.
Experienced that yourself.
So that all-nighter, alone, 3 a.m., nodding off, runners coming through, waking me up to tell me they were leaving. I had a buddy heater down at the base of my feet. Had some, I smelled some burning plastic, and it was either my shoes or my radio that was sitting on by my chair. So yeah, if you smell burning plastic, it's not good. So don't overextend yourself like I did with that one. Number 19, pack extra meals. You never know when your shift will be extended.
We've experienced that too. You just most recently this season, but we've been together where we've had late runners. And we've been sent to a next post to go and find them. And you think you're done at 5, and 8 o'clock comes around, and you're still looking for them. Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's extended. I've had that with my son. He was hungry, he wanted dinner. Luckily, we just brought extra food, extra comfort stuff. So the one I just had I was supposed to be done at 6. 6 o'clock, runner's missing. Someone already swept the trail. I was on post until 11 p.m. waiting for them to find the runner that never made it to our station, but we had to stay there in case he did. And so, yeah, you go all the way through dinner, extended assignment. And so that goes with a lot of things, with meals, with batteries. All my batteries were drained. I was down to tapping into my car battery. Just plan for all those things.
If you think you're going to be there just during the day, and you're not thinking of bringing any portable batteries, cold weather,
yeah,
bring
jacket.
It's better to have it than not have it and be miserable, or you can't function.
Yeah. Yeah, and with that also, if this isn't in the list, but this is a good thing that I always do is I leave a printout of the radio communications guide, usually with my wife, and I circle what aid I'm at. Of course, it has our name and cell phone numbers, but usually that assignment list has net control with some cell phone numbers and they're within cell range. And so my wife knows not only cell phone numbers to call net control, but also to know, of course, she knows my call sign, but she knows my aid assignment. And so she can say, I need to get a message to aid 7. That's a lot easier than saying I need to get a message to John. And then also when I did get extended till 11 o'clock, around 8 o'clock, I had net control contact her via cell because they were down in the valley, and to say, hey, he's with a overdue runner. He's not going to be back, because probably by that time she was seriously starting to wonder what happened to me. And so just leave a communication plan with your family, how they can get a contact in you, and then how you can get in contact with them. Obviously for you, it's a lot easier through net control, but for them, it's a mystery. They just know you're doing some ham radio related event. So make sure you leave them some contact information. Okay, so number 20, if something doesn't work, try something different. If that does not work, try something else different. If that does not work, try the first thing again. It will most likely work. Creativity and problem solving is a valuable skill.
Keep at it. And it's, it may take 3 or 4 times, like it says here. By that time you're doing number 4, go back to number 1, and miraculously that whatever you did in steps 2 and 3 will make number 4 work.
I always say the best antenna to have is the one you forgot and left at home. But I've had that happen. We've had that happen. We tried antenna 1, antenna 2, antenna 3, frequency 1, frequency 2, and then we go back to the original frequency, and
voila,
we're
it's working.
Wait a minute. We already tried this antenna. We already tried this frequency, but it might have been how you made that connection. It might have been somewhere in the point we swapped out a cable.
Yeah.
Or we tried a different radio. Or we had turned off the radio and reset. And so, yeah, you just got to be creative, because like I kind of talk about in the training item failure is not an option, which is from Apollo 13. It wasn't really said during the Apollo 13, but it was said in the movie, so they liked it. But you have to solve the problem, and you got to figure out a way to solve the problem. And if you just get frustrated and stomp your feet and say, I quit, that's not an option.
It doesn't serve anyone. And again, these are great learning experiences. And then you'll learn next time, okay, maybe I needed this, or I need, a backup, to this. So you can still make it learning. Yes, it's frustrating. Try to work through it. There are other people, if you can get on the air, maybe we can help you talk, through whatever issue it is. But if you're on your own, hey, it's your nothing else. I mean, you're it. So keep at it. You'll get through it.
Yeah. How many times have we heard on the net, does anybody have a manual for a Yaesu? Yeah. It's like, bring your manuals. But yeah, like you said, there, if you can't solve the problem yourself, hopefully you're on the air enough to do that. And so hopefully this has been helpful. We're going to do another one where we talk about gear and equipment, and kind of walk through what the gear we like to take out on events. And so we're going to do, this will be probably a couple episodes, podcast episodes, video episodes on just planning for public service events. There was a good article in the QST, the recently, that kind of gave you an overview, and I'll link that. I think they might have a digital online version for that article. If they do, I will link that for you. If not, find someone that's a member of ARL and borrow that magazine from a couple months ago. And that's a good introductory start to public service events.
Yeah, keep at it and volunteer. and you'll learn a ton, and hopefully you'll find a joy in it like John and I do.
Yeah, start out small. Mm-hmm. Don't go backcountry. Start out small, do some
there's plenty around.
Shadow.
Yeah, that's where I've learned with John. I haven't personally gone on my own. I like, being with John. Can you believe that? And
well, you did that one on your. You did a.
I've done a city one.
Yeah,
actually. I have.
City ones, yeah.
But the big ones.
The backcountry.
It's nice to have somebody together. So start out small, learn, and keep learning, and you'll do good.
Yep. All right. Thank you for coming on this episode.
Thanks for asking me. Hope to come back.
So keeping in the theme with public service events here, I would like to do my training item on thinking about how we can use these public service events as for a drill for the real emergency. I hope you enjoy. Hello, this is John W7DBO with the training item. Several times a year, I volunteer for backcountry ultra run events operating at an aid station. The location of the aid station is typically not accessible by cell service and on the fringe of established repeaters. In my opinion, this is the best readiness training an amateur radio operator can have. You are given an assignment, you prepare your equipment for a grid-down situation, and then you have to perform your duties with real situations. This, quote, real event drill, unquote, as Gordo WB6NOA refers to it, as being superior to a planned drill you would experience with your local MCOM group. A typical scenario for a drill is to assign operators to respond to a location, then practice passing scripted messages to each other to test equipment, operating plans, and skills. This is effective training, but there is no dynamic interaction with non-operators, and there is no consequence for failure. In performing this same drill associated with an event, there is interaction with people, and the consequences for failure are real. Instead of identifying what did not work in a drill, in a real event drill, you have to find a way to make it work right then. Your emergency communications group should adopt the popular term, failure is not an option. When working as a radio volunteer at an event, I get endless thanks from participants and other volunteers for my specialized service. Working these events is an excellent goodwill opportunity to educate the public and civic leaders on the amateur radio hobby. It is one thing to invite the public and leaders to experience a field day. It is another to put our skills and equipment into action to accomplish a community service goal and purpose. When there is a goal and purpose, the equipment, skills, and hobby is more understandable to the general public. While at one event, a runner that was resting under my canopy was very interested to understand why I would go to the expense and time to volunteer for the event. Beyond the desire to serve the community, I explained I had ulterior motives, and this event was really a chance for me to test my equipment and skills in a real-world situation. There are also other effective ways to test our readiness for emergency communications, such as field day, radar-type activations, SOTA, or just going to the park to try out our new gear. The goal is to find a way to get out of the shack and test our skills and equipment. So if emergency communications is an interest you have in this hobby, volunteering for event support is an excellent way to practice and hone your craft of radio communications. If you do not feel comfortable at extreme backcountry events, volunteer at events in the city where communications is easier, or offer to shadow another operator who is experienced to learn from them. I hope you enjoyed this training item. My name is John, W7DBO. This will do it for this episode. Thank you once again, Chris Fielding, KG7 IVS, for coming on the show and sharing with your expertise in public service events. As always, if you have a show topic or a suggestion to become a guest on the show, you may contact me at fieldradiopodcast@gmail.com. Until next time, I'm John W7DBO, 73s.